Hello, this is A.M. Snyder from SnyderSunshineArtStudio.com, and today we have a very loving turtle with the hearts all over its shell, and we have a little hat on. It looks very cozy and warm. And then we have this one. Oh, this one has its shell covered in lots of little hearts, has those loving colors on it, and it looks like they're going towards someone. I wonder where they're going to go and spread their love today. Now, when I go to draw objects on a paper, I have learned to look at my hand on the paper and figure out like how big something should be so it fills the space. Now, I used a half sheet of 9.5 by 11 like printer paper. So if I were to use a larger paper, this is the 8.5 by 11, I may have to look at maybe my hand going this like this, so that I'm using my entire hand and then drawing a curve around it so that it will be bigger and fill the space more. But since I used a half sheet of paper, then I could look at my fingers. I use this hand because I'm right-handed, and I can see how that size would make that turtle fit in that space a lot better than having a tiny little turtle or running out of space, which I tend to do. Well, now, to get started with our very loving turtle, we are going to do just that. We are going to place our fingers in the middle. If you're using a half sheet, as I mentioned earlier, if you're using a bigger sheet, you may want to position your hand sideways and draw that curved line to fill the space. So the shell is going to be where we start, and I'm going to not trace my fingers. I'm just going to draw a curved line around, just like that. Sometimes I like to call this frowny face line or a rainbow curve. It looks like the paper's frowning. Oh, ho hum. But we're going to make it a very loving turtle. So here we go. Now I'm going to make a curved line this way, not as deep. See how this is very deep? This is going to be a slight curve. It always reminds me of like a gumdrop shape. And then on the sides, I like to call these parentheses. So if you were writing and you have something in parentheses, or we have a C and a backwards C, we're going to draw little curves on either side. I'm going to try and make them look the same. And then this curvy line right here, we're repeating it. Repeating it, just like that. And we have it. Now we're going to give it its head. So when I look at this turtle here, I just used a circle. Just circle. If you wish to make it more like a teardrop shape, or you want to make it pointy in the front, actually we could do that. I'll just do that. So if I turn the paper this way and I add my curve in here, I'll position it a little higher. And then as I'm coming around, I like to think of this as a candy corn. So during the fall season, autumn season in my area, we have what's called candy corn shapes. Candy corn. Okay, and then we are going to draw the heart this way. So you see how I turn the paper so I can get that in the position I want it to be. Hearts, I like to think of it as a letter V. This one is like a 3, but it's 2 bumps. Or the M bird. Many young children will draw the letter M for birds in the sky. V, letter M bird. And then turn it this way, and we're going to add its center in its eye. And we're going to curve this around to make it so very jolly. We could put a heart in there again. So if you look at this one here, we have a heart. Or we can make it a circle. I'm just going to give it a little cheek right there. Maybe a little nose hole. Ooh, it's coming together so very well. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of a neck here. On my other two, I did not do that because it just it lined up. I think looks like I drew them so that they were behind the shell. So in essence, you want to see the neck. This is a little thicker than I think we just did. So I'm going to draw that though because it makes sense. So it looks like it's connected. And then we're going to add, going back to fingers again, if I put 2 fingers in here, I just drew a side of its leg, and I draw another side of its leg, and I'll make sure it's nice and sturdy. That curved line is going to get repeated. And then behind its leg, behind this leg, even here, it'll be like a belly. So I would need to erase this little bitty line right there. There we go. And then we have the leg that would be on the other side of it. Because the turtle's walking sideways, we would see the other side. We would not see the other side, excuse me. Because the turtle's walking sideways, we would not see all of the leg on that side, but we might see a little bit of it. It's also shorter to show that it's over there and it's further away from us. And then I would come back in here, use my 2 fingers, okay, curve, again add a little bit of its body underneath the shell, and give it its turtle tail. Turtle tail, how much fun is that? Turtle tail. Alright, now we are going to decorate its shell. I'm going to use a combination here so that you can see how I did this. I'm going to turn the turtle, and then we would have all these sharps. We would have all these hearts, excuse me, hearts coming that way. Is how I'm trying to push them together like they're flowing, but it doesn't always work, so now I have this gap, and that is okay. It's like the plates on a turtle's shell. And vary the size. And now that I have those somewhat layered at the bottom here, I kind of want to overlap here. Make a bigger one right in there. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and add to the top of it so it looks like this. So on the very top, I'm adding a curve, and again, repeating. And then I'm going to add a curve like the heart plate is popping off the shell. I'm going to do the same over here. And then I'm just going to make a heart. And then we'll draw one in here. Oh, it's a little tight. I might have to erase. Yeah, that's okay. It's a good thing we're using a pencil. Well, what do I want to do in this space? Let's make it like a little droopy diamond. Droopy diamond. Droopy diamond. That's a little tight over there. I might have to adjust that. And I will add another heart. Just to emphasize the loving heart turtle. Heart turtle. And then we get to decorate the little ridging around here. I personally do like just these little curvy lines, so I'm going to show you that. And then if you look at this one, we have the bumps with the hearts in it. But you are welcome to do it any way you want, just using our lines. I'm going to show you the curvy line because I want you to see how that makes it look round. So I'm going to use this curved line and repeat it until I get about halfway. Of course, spacing. Most likely my little finger kind of spaces that out. Spacing is always very important. You put them all squished together, it won't look as nice. So I'm about halfway. So this is where we actually turn the curve line to go this way. Sometimes artists will just say you go straight down when you get to the center. This is probably more the center. Either way, I'm just going to curve it slightly. And as I do that, you can see how it becomes more round. You could squeeze a heart in there if you want. You could do it in every other one. I personally don't want to. I think I might actually just want to do a little polka dot, like a little circle in there. Add decoration to it. Yeah. And then I always like the idea of turtle toes being these little curves. But because our turtle is so loving and caring, you could make them little hearts. It's always a possibility. I'm actually going to go with the curved lines. Just like that. So I'm going to use a wavy line to show the ground here. Maybe even place that line in it. I don't want the eraser now, it's just there. And then add some more wavy lines. And put some little zigzags for little patches of grass. And as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, well, maybe, just maybe, there's somebody visiting the turtle here. Could we possibly draw a little tiny beetle? Hey, look, that looks like a little heart. Those are the wings. Its body. Little tiny eyeballs. And little legs. So very frail. We have to be very careful with this fragile, frail legs. Because it's so small. It's a very small little beetle. It's coming to visit the loving turtle. So the next step I always like to do is take my Sharpie pen and trace over everything. And then erase all those pencil lines. I might have thought ahead here and got a little Sharpie pen instead of a Sharpie marker, but I think that looks fine. And we trace around, and after we trace around, erase all of the pencil lines. I'll turn my paper here so I can position my hand better. It makes more sense for my hand to go that way. So always think about how you can turn your paper to make things a little nicer. And then when it's all traced and erased, we get to add our color. You're welcome to use anything that you have to color it. I tend to like to use crayons. They're not expensive, and there's so many colors that we can achieve with it, with those crayons. So I favor them. But you can always use watercolor or other kinds of paints or colored pencils. I personally struggle with colored pencils because you have to sharpen them all the time. And depending on the brand, they tend to break as soon as you get them into a point. Now, I have understood over the years that sometimes colored pencils, if they're dropped too much, the filament inside gets broken into little pieces inside the wooden casing. And then as you sharpen it, these little broken pieces just end up being what happens when you sharpen it. I don't know. I've never looked that up. Higher quality color pencils seem to be better. But as mentioned, I have no problem using crayons. They are long lasting. You can sharpen them if you so desire as well with a regular pencil sharpener. Done. We take our amazing eraser. I tend to like the white ones. Pink ones seem to smudge. So if you can get yourself a white eraser, it's always better. At least in my opinion. Notice how my fingers are spread across the paper. I do that because if I don't, the paper's going to wrinkle up just like that. And then that's just frustrating after I spent all that time and now my drawing's wrinkled. So I tend to put pressure down and hold it down where I'm erasing. And it helps to limit that from happening. Not all the time, as you could just see, but I went in a different direction too, which my hand was not holding it in that way. And then we get the big pile of eraser. Alrighty, and when you go to color it, you might want to think about using tertiary colors and secondary colors that work next to each other on a color wheel so that you can have some highlights. You might want to think about those loving colors. You might want to think about contrasting colors. So we have our orange against our green. They contrast from each other, they're across from each other on a color wheel. You might also want to think about warm colors in a combination so it feels warm and loving. And as you can see, I didn't fully color the background. You could always add more things to the background and color it. As I'm talking, I'm thinking, could put tree bark in here, not tree bark, but this tree trunk in here. So if I did that, some tree trunks. Just back in here makes it look even more different. It fills the space in. And that could be quite exciting too. So this would be darker when I would color it, and then this would be lighter, so it appears more forward and more enlightening than the dark behind it, which again creates that contrast. Well, I've enjoyed being here with you, and I hope that you enjoy drawing our very loving turtle today. I'm Snyder here from SnyderSunshineArtStudio.com, hoping that you have a delightful time drawing with me. Bye now.